Hey everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV. This is the Uncensored Match Build Up. It's Liverpool versus Arsenal, Sunday afternoon at Anfield. I'm delighted to be joined by Chris and by Sam to have a big old chat about the Reds versus Arsenal. At one point, when the fixtures come out, everyone was thinking, is this going to be a big game? Is it going to be a title decider for either team? No. Absolutely not. Liverpool have already won the league. Arsenal are very much winning nothing again, and now their aim is to stay in second place, I guess. We'll talk all about Liverpool's aims for the game, Arsenal and their season, and what this game means for them as well. Guys, thanks very much for coming in. So yeah, Chris, I'll start with you. Let's start on Arsenal then. They're going to be trophyless again. Obviously they got beat by PSG over both legs in the European Cup semi-final the other day. They're currently 15 points behind Liverpool. I'm just wondering if you, Mikel Arteta, are you building this up into a massive thing of go and beat them, go and lay a marker down for next season, or is he like, listen, the race is run, we've had loads of injuries, we've flogged the same lads over and over. Given the fact that now, because like Newcastle and Chelsea play each other and Forest and Chelsea have got to play each other, they're pretty much guaranteed Champions League. Now, there was a while there where that might have been a risk, but given that they're pretty much safe there now, it'll be interesting to see what Arteta makes of this one.
I think he'll see it as a bit more of a grudge match for himself, really, given the form that they're in as well. And let's make it clear, they were not the better team over the course of two legs, no matter what he might believe. I expect Arsenal to go strong, certainly for the last 3 games, given that there is no Champions League to focus on now. And yeah, I totally agree that they have had injuries, but the way that everybody talks about it in the media is as if no one else has. Because I was looking at, there was a stat saying about the amount of Arsenal players that have been out for 8 games or more this season. So coming in today, I just had a look at who's missed at least 8 games for Liverpool. Alisson's missed 8 games. Jota, Konate's missed, I think, 6 or so over that big Christmas period. And yeah, exactly. Alexander-Arnold. So the difference is for Liverpool, and Bradley as well, he's missed a lot. The difference is for Liverpool that when they have had injuries this year, they've got on with it. And I think that's been a big deciding factor in the season. And also the amount of times when Liverpool have dropped points, Arsenal have also dropped points off the back of it. So no, going into it, yeah, I think Arteta's looking at this and going, they just kind of want to maybe dispel a few ideas that he's under pressure potentially, looking to lay down a mark for next season. But for Liverpool, you know, they'll be getting on with the game after having a nice guard of honour.
I wonder as well, Sam, on that, because obviously City are currently just 3 points behind Arsenal. Now, Arsenal do have a better goal difference of 9, it's worth mentioning. But City play Southampton this weekend. There's a chance that he can win and maybe do something with that goal difference, you know, potentially. Listen, Man City aren't brilliant either, and they've got an FA Cup final to focus on, but you'd think that they're going to get something there. I do wonder if Arteta is like really how much finishing second would mean now. It wouldn't have meant nothing if they were in the Champions League final. He would have rested everybody, but because they haven't got that now, I think, you know, to come third in a 2-horse race almost this season behind that City side, it would be a bit embarrassing. So I do wonder if he does add impetus on it, because if I was him, in any other, I wouldn't be playing Saka, who's only just come back from injury and has been ragged, and he's had, you know, the likes of Saliba and all that, but he might have to, because I think he really will want to finish in second place.
Yeah, well, the sensible thing to do would be to rest a couple of players like Saka, who's only just kind of returning to full fitness. But I think the way that the state that club exists in is this perpetual kind of state of heightened emotions where every game is the be-all and end-all. I think he will want to go out there and make a statement to say, you know, we're still here. We might not have won a trophy again, but we're still competing. Whether that's true or not is another matter, but I think it's important for them going into next year. That I think a big part of why Arteta has been successful to a point is that he has created a kind of mentality of it's us against the world. And if Arsenal fans were to begin to turn their backs on Arteta, begin to start to question him, that could evaporate very quickly. So I think it will be important for him to be able to say, look, we've gone to Anfield and won. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen personally. It might do because of the way the season's played, the fact it's almost kind of a dead rubber for us. But I think Arsenal will be right up for it, and I think our Liverpool fans will be as well. Whether the players will be is another matter, but I would, of all the games after we'd won the league for the end of the season, the 4 fixtures, this one is the one I'd like to win most.
Absolutely, I think you're right. And it's mentioned, I said there, Chris, they could, they want to finish second. They play at Anfield and then they play Newcastle, and Newcastle have had Arsenal's number this season. Like, Newcastle aren't that far behind. They've got a tough game against Chelsea, but if they can beat Chelsea and beat Arsenal, like, Arsenal could find themselves in 4th position.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm thinking, because usually you'd go, lads, we give it our best shot, but we can't. We're done. Thanks very much for your efforts, but I'm going to rest and rotate my team a little like Arne Slot's done, albeit because they're champions. But I'm thinking for Arteta, this is the first week really where there's been a bit of noise about him. There's a lot of Arsenal fans who are steadfast he's the man, and there's a lot now who question, can we get over the line? Where are we? Are we this team who gets beaten semi-finals and finishes second all the time? And I do think, I don't know if pressure's the right word. There shouldn't be pressure. He's done a good job, but I do think the noise is around it, and he probably hears everything. The way he speaks in the media and the way he talks, and we've seen him on like that All or Nothing show, he sees everything in the media, he listens to it, he reacts to it, and I do think he himself and his coaching staff will be aware that there's a little bit of noise around him now. Yeah,
I agree. I've said on the show before, it's won FA Cup since 2020 for Arsenal, and I think because there's been no trophy this year, I think that's becoming a bit more into focus now for some people. I saw Henry Winter put it quite well, actually, just in terms of, look, they've progressed to the semi-finals of the Champions League. There's the feeling that there is progression. He needs that striker. He needs a left winger, for example, and maybe a midfielder. Let's not forget that there is a lot of money already that has been spent by Arsenal under Mikel Arteta, almost, I think, £700 million or so. So it's not as if there have been no investment there, but I do think it's put a lot of pressure on him next season. And I almost feel like Arsenal missed a little bit of an opportunity this season, to be honest. In the same way that I think the final of the Champions League is, I think it's last chance saloon for Inter, because I think they've got an ageing squad. And for PSG, I think it's a massive opportunity, because I think Real, City and Liverpool in particular have had off days in the Champions League. I'll say that for Arsenal as well, because Liverpool are going to strengthen, City are going to strengthen, Real Madrid have pretty much already begun to strengthen. So that's why I just think this season, I think it's a bit more of a failure for Arsenal than some people are having you believe, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because it's mad, because if you finish second and get to a Champions League semi-final and get to a League Cup semi-final, it just feels like, for a lot of clubs, that's like Sam, but it feels a little bit like always the bridesmaids, never the brides at this point for Arsenal a little bit.
As Sam have said as well, and it's a very interesting one. I'd be interested to see what people think. Arsenal finish second, don't win a trophy. Wherever Spurs finish, if they win the Europa League, have they had a better season?
I would still say Arsenal have, but you haven't won it. But their fans would be like, listen, we got a trophy. You're right, mate. Football is about trophies. To be fair to Arsenal,
and they would have both have achieved Champions League football.
Yeah, Arsenal just can't win the Europa League. That's the difference, isn't it? It's hard to win something they're not in. But you're right. In terms of like the days out and a final, it's massive, and that's what their fans are craving. So
even with Arsenal this season, though, Arteta's been quite defensive about, we would
just in general.
That's
in general, with his team.
But the main kind of argument is they've had injuries, which is true, but even when they haven't, if you look at the points per game of when Saka and Odegaard have actually played, Liverpool is still averaging higher than them.
They were never top.
So this is it. There's never actually particularly been a race. At one point there was even Chelsea who were above them kind of challenging. And this is, Carragher said it earlier on in the season and put it very well, is that the last 2 years, people forget Liverpool were in the title race for a long time last year, but given Arsenal's progression over the last 2 years, this should have been their time to kick on when City have dropped down. And the fact that we've overtaken them kind of not out of the blue, but unexpectedly, I think if I were an Arsenal fan, I'd be really disappointed at this season and be thinking, well, we've had 5 years to build this squad. Why can't we cope with one injury on the right?
Let's have a look ahead to the game then. I'll come to you, Chris, first. Should we expect an aerial bombardment of long throws? Because I watched that PSG game, right? And I was saying, Arsene Wenger must have been turning in his big massive coat, because oh my god, long throws, like 11 long throws. Like they got a free kick on the halfway line and the goalie was whipping it into it was like, I've never seen this before from a team who've got good players. I look at Arsenal's team, I think Saka's excellent. I think he's fantastic. I like Martinelli, a bit raw, but he's got a lot going for him. Rice and Partey in midfield have got a lot going for them. Odegaard up and down this season. I understand the lack of a centre forward, but I was just amazed by the tactics of Yeah, Arsenal's high press was really good and I enjoyed it, but when they got the ball, it felt like they were playing for set pieces, and I do wonder, should Liverpool be prepared for like 11 Thomas Partey long throw-ins? Quite
possibly. When you consider, if they just scored from the Martinelli or Odegaard chances, then look, fair enough, then you could say it had paid off. It was a bit pewless ball, shall we say. I know that's been labelled somewhat to Arteta at times, I've seen with the amount of set pieces, but I think the stat emerged after the Bournemouth game. Maybe they got that idea from Bournemouth actually after Bournemouth scored from a long throw. But was it 48% of Arsenal's goals conceded have come from set pieces?
They're really bad at defending set plays. They're really good at scoring them, but they're really bad at defending them.
I've never known, given the camera pans to the guy every single time, I've never known a team that is so prolific at them, but also so poor at defending them. It's really quite strange.
It's come to light recently, really, and I think Arteta told them to sit down on one occasion because when they just conceded, which was quite amusing because the whole set piece coach thing is so important. But I'm of the opinion, just sit down.
Yeah, sit down.
Sit down.
Unless you're going to stand there when we let one in.
Unless you're actually... You're not actually helping by standing there screaming stuff at players 50 yards away in the stadium.
I loved it. Declan Rice scored the free kick and he was like, bend it in, Declan. All right, mate.
No, he's not telling him to whip it.
Just score the best free kick in the world, Declan. That'll do us fine. Yeah, it's interesting because let's talk about the game itself, Sam, a little bit in terms of how it might go and whatever. We don't know exactly how Arsenal are going to approach it. We'll talk about Liverpool in a moment, but they have got players who can hurt you. Like, what it's interesting this year because Arsenal, in terms of goals scored, they're actually fourth. Liverpool, City, and Newcastle have all scored more goals in the league. Arsenal have got the best defence. Although they are now without Gabriel. I know Kivio's done quite well, but that is something to keep an eye on. But they have got players who can hurt you if they are motivated and really up for it. Saka in particular caused us problems in the first game at the Emirates. Martinelli on the other side actually plays quite well against Liverpool quite often. They're probably the two biggest threats, along with, like say, they do have a very powerful, energetic midfield. If the legs of Rice and Partey in particular aren't quite at the end of the gas tank yet, given they've gone through hard seasons, but there's lads there who can hit you.
Yeah, they are a team that have kind of had our number in the sense that we haven't been able to really get one over on them in the last couple of years, except for the FA Cup, which was satisfying. But in every game we've played against them recently, both teams have had spells on top, and it's basically, they're both mostly ended up in draws, haven't they? But it's basically comes down to who can make the most of their time on top, who's the better finishers. This weekend, I can see it being the same. Liverpool have only really got back into training today, Friday, by the sounds of things. And so you do wonder how sharp we're going to be.
They were literally on the beach.
Yeah, we're literally on the beach.
Literally on the beach.
So, given what happened last week, I think we will go slightly stronger. And the difference is we've obviously got the home crowd who will be well up for trying to beat Arsenal as well, party time. I personally think Arsenal will be well up for coming to Anfield and trying to spoil the party. That's their kind of raison d'etre, isn't it?
That's all they've got, really, isn't it?
That is the remaining objective of the season, is just to be annoying.
Absolutely. Speaking of some of their players as well, Chris, I'm a big fan of Lewis Skelly. I think he's really good. But PSG had done a number on him the other day. Yeah. They kept taking the ball off him. They kept exposing him. He is the high line and the sprints in behind. And I do wonder, again, Mohamed Salah is about to win the Football Writers Award. He is still chasing this he wants this 30-20 target of goals and assists. As we saw last week, maybe Liverpool, if they were, again, party time, they'd been on Yale for a few days, they hadn't really trained, they come back and go to a very motivated Chelsea away from home with a much changed team. I do think if you're Mohamed Salah in particular, you might look at that and go, Lewis Skelly, this might be a battle I'm having for the next 2 or 3 years. Might be can I get one over him on him early doors, because he looks like a really good player. But like I say, PSG had a little bit of a go at him and got success the other day.
Yeah. The irony about Lewis Skelly is that he's a player that's actually probably benefited from injuries this season, really.
And he's fantastic, he is brilliant.
Because otherwise, I think Zinchenko started the first game of the season. Obviously, Calafiori came in probably with the idea of being the predominant left back, but I know he's been sent off a couple of times this year, but he has ultimately shown that he is capable. Scored for England as well at Wembley. I think he is a player that, for the future, certainly for Arsenal, maybe even for the present. But I remember at the Emirates, Salah gave him a really tough time and ultimately scored the second equaliser on that occasion. And I think that game at the Emirates, I think when you look at important points in the season, I do think that was one.
Yeah.
Because I know even though Arsenal ended the game with pretty much the most makeshift back four, that they could have imagined starting the game with, I think that it was still just a crucial point. Even if Liverpool didn't win the game, just a crucial one just to not let Arsenal get those 2 extra points.
Showed a bit of steel about us, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Real determination. And I think, Salah, we saw what he did against West Ham and Skulls the other week. And I know Lewis Kelly's a much more experienced, better left back than Skulls. But I just think Salah, I know we'll touch on him a bit, but I just wonder whether the talk about him recently, I'll want to put that to bed. Just say, look, I am still here. Because to be honest with you, again, you look at Chelsea, should have had an assist. At the very least, he should have had an assist. So Salah, every game I look at him and go, he wants to be the best player on the pitch. And I think that's what makes him the player of the year. I think that's what makes him different from all the rest. And I think that's something that Salah really will be relishing.
What I do think about Arsenal is their midfield is so physical, but we need to match that. So that I could see Gravenberch, McAllister and Szoboszlai being the midfield free for that reason. I think when we've played them in the past, do you remember a couple of years ago, they played really well in the first half and they did go 2-0 up.
The 2-2, yeah.
And then we came back and were all over them in the second half because the crowd had got
Trent
up.
went into midfield. That was the first time we really saw Trent come into midfield.
And I think it's whoever wins that midfield battle, really, and I can see it being a game of two halves again, to use a cliche.
Absolutely, could be absolutely right. Right, then we're going to take a quick break, ladies and gentlemen, after which we're going to speak about Liverpool, their team news, any selection issues. The manager's confirmed one player who's definitely going to play, but there's 10 others who will be vying for a place in the starting 11. So stick around, we'll be back after this quick break. See you in a couple of minutes.
Hey, I don't know whether you've heard, but Liverpool Football Club are champions of England for the 20th time, and the biggest party that has ever hit the city of Liverpool is coming that final weekend. It is called the Red Weekender, and the Saturday in particular, my word, have we got a day for you. It begins with an incredible meet and greet with 4 Liverpool legends. They are Gary McAllister, Tash Dowie, Bruce Grobbelaar and John Aldridge, alongside broadcasting legend Steve Hoddesall. There's music from DJ Harry Mack and the Ragamuffins playing all the Liverpool hits. There is headline music by the Zootons. Yes, the Zootons. Me, Chris, Steve, Chloe and Dan will be going live on stage with some general Redmen shenanigans, and then we are going head to head with our headliner, the king himself, Kenny Dalglish, and his family. Yes, Sky Sport own Kelly Kate, Paul Dalglish, Marina and Lauren are going to be going head to head with us in a family fortune style game show hosted by former host of Family Fortunes himself, Les Dennis. Yes, live on stage, the ultimate Liverpool show, the ultimate Liverpool party, the Saturday before the final game of the season at the Exhibition Centre in Liverpool. It is the biggest, it is the best. Get your tickets sorted now because they are selling fast, and join us at the Red Weekender. Head to theredweekender.com. There are great events happening all weekend, but come and join us, especially on the Saturday, for the party of a lifetime.
Yeah, welcome back. If you want to come and see us at our end of season show, do head over to theredweekender.com, get your tickets. Amazing. The biggest selling show we've done so far already. It's flat. The tickets are flying on, so if you want to be there, Kenny Dalglish, all those other legends, and us. We're the main draw, I'll be honest. Yeah, go and get your tickets sorted, guys. It'd be a pleasure to go and see us there. Go to theredweekender.com. And yes, Saturday, come and celebrate with us. Sunday, watch Virgil van Dijk lift that trophy over there, up in the, well, not that one, but one that looks a little bit like that one, up in the air. And then Monday, parade time. What a weekend to be in and around Liverpool. So yeah, come and join us. Can't wait to see everybody there. Let's talk about Liverpool. Then we spoke about Arsenal in the first half. Let's talk about the Reds. Bora, one of our comments, says half our team is literally on the beach, so I don't expect a great performance from us. And given what we saw last week, Sam, when you take the edge out of footballers, they are all good footballers. And actually, Liverpool v Chelsea were actually quite a close game in terms of like overall, but like a couple of moments of madness, a couple of errors, and just that little edge of sharpness or whatever, that little bit of extra, and obviously Liverpool making changes. That is the thing. Yeah, this can happen at this time of the season. It is what it is. I'll go back to, we spoke about Arsenal's desire here. I do wonder where Arne Slot and the team, and like I say, they've all been on holiday this week. Arne Slot rocked up like 20 minutes late to his press conference. There is a little feel here of like end of term, and I wonder where Liverpool are in their heads now in terms of how badly do they really want to go and beat Arsenal.
Well, this is why I was kind of thinking this could be a game where the momentum shifts halfway through, because there is every chance that we come into this on the beach, like, for want of a better phrase. But I do think, though, as soon as we kind of get into the game, a bit like we saw against Chelsea, as soon as we get into it, you remember this is a game of football, and we ultimately want to win. Arsenal haven't particularly been very endearing recently in terms of the way of football and the whole kind of feel around the club. So there is some kind of rivalry there. And I don't think Slot will want there to be much of a drop-off. Don't get me wrong, I don't think he was bothered by the defeat at Chelsea last week. But the reason why I was kind of a bit surprised last week was because Slot made those changes and we had players coming in to fight for their place. And I'm not saying they were poor. Some of them were great. I thought Endo was great. Quansah had a mostly good game. But I thought that would retain our intensity, the fact that these players are almost playing for their place at Liverpool. You could, by the sounds of it, we're going to be going a bit stronger on Sunday. But I still think there's that little bite to the game that once we get into it, we'll have. I'd play Endo again personally, because I think he was arguably our best performer last week, and he's that professional. He will always bring that. He won't drop off. But it could be one of them where we get 20 minutes in and Arsenal have started well, given they've just come off the back of a semi-final, which they did play okay in, and then we kind of have to build from there.
That is the one thing I've noticed recently when we played against them, because actually they have started quickly in most of the games.
Yeah.
Even with the Emirates this year, Saka's goal comes quite early on, and you go back to the games at Anfield and stuff. They do try and hit you early, especially in big games, and they've done well doing that. Again, I go back to it. Those were bigger games, and this one's kind of not as much. But that is something that we need to be wary of. Chelsea absolutely sucker punched us. A couple of minutes in, and it was the first. A couple of lads, one slips over, one's out of position, and all of a sudden we're 1-0 down. Like, that is the worry for Liverpool. Like, your mentality's got to be. If you're that arsed, which I hope they are a little bit, then they're going to have to be switched on, because Arsenal do fly out the traps. They did it against PSG the other day as well.
Yeah, it was definitely a trait earlier on in the season for Liverpool, in terms of not starting games well, and obviously the reverse for Arsenal as such. And yeah, they have the quality. Say if Liverpool are slightly off it at the start, Arsenal to spring a trap, spring a surprise. If they had scored early on in Paris, I probably would have backed them to have seen the job through, really, but ultimately they didn't, and that's probably been the difference for Arsenal in terms of not having that quality clinical edge at the top end of the pitch. And I genuinely don't think the performance last week at Chelsea was that bad, really. Again, I say about the Nunez header, if that had gone in,
there was just loads of individual, like it's the individual errors, isn't it? And that's what can happen with, that's what I'm saying about mentality. Like, the own goal is a bit of a stinker. The first goal, that some of the misses, I know it's very late on, but the pass that leads to the penalty, they're just little things that can be at it when you're not, can happen when you're not quite at it, I suppose. Yeah,
I totally agree with Sam, what he said about players fighting for the place, because my main disappointment was Elliott, because I am such a big fan. Unfortunately, he has been better off the bench this season. I really was looking forward to seeing how he got on, and I just think he really struggled just to get into the game pretty much from the start, really. I know it was the first time all season in the Premier League that a Jones, Endo, Elliott midfield three had lined up, but again, I think the way Liverpool train and that they will have at least known each other's game and those kind of things. So yeah, that was the main frustration for me. I don't think it was a bad performance at all at Chelsea. Again, if there isn't a free cone goal or a penalty at the end, could well be talking about a result. But ultimately, I think I did go into the game almost anticipating a loss just off the back of the week, and given that Slot had admitted there was going to be rotation, also for the fact that Chelsea knew they had to win, given the fixtures that they've got coming up, really. So, yeah, I think definitely in terms of early on, got a guard against Arsenal, and I just wonder, again, the crowd at Anfield, knowing that this is a game, as Sam says, I think I agree in terms of after the four remaining games, this is the one that I wanted to win the most, very closely followed by Palace, because I do want that to be a day of celebration.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the crowd won't let last week's performance happen, I don't think.
I think that the away fans at Arsenal, at Chelsea, were in like party mode. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think there might be a bit more actual caring about the footy from the stands this week. Let's talk about the team then, because you mentioned there, the manager left loads out last week, so he's got loads of options to bring all those players back in. First one, Sammy confirmed today Conor Bradley's going to play. Obviously, asked about Trent Alexander-Arnold, said, yeah, disappointed, it is what it is. Well, kind of backed that one away. Tried to make a joke, didn't really land it. And then said, like, you know, the plan was for Conor Bradley to play against Chelsea, but his fitness wasn't quite right, so he's going to start. The interesting one becomes, if we don't think Conor Bradley can do 90 minutes, does Alexander-Arnold even get on the pitch? Because I'll be honest, if it was me now, he wouldn't be in the squad. He'd be in the stands or whatever. I just think that for in games that we don't really need to win, and what that asked, I'd rather give a kid a game if I had to.
Totally agree.
You know, do whatever you want to do. I also think it's a bit of a distraction when he comes on, when he warms up. There might be some booing. There might absolutely be some boos. But it's right that Bradley plays, but if he's not ready to do 90 minutes, it'll be interesting what the manager decides to do with Alexander-Arnold.
I'm on the fence about it all, because I think the time for booing might have passed by a bit.
I think you are underestimating.
I think, no, but against Leicester it happened, but I suppose we've not really had that chance from the home crowd.
Well, and it wasn't confirmed. Now it's confirmed.
I think we all knew, though.
We all knew.
Am I being a bit naive to it? Or?
A little bit. I think.
Okay.
Because I think there's a dip. We all kind of knew, but we never knew. Now we know.
I think on Monday I felt a whole new raw wave of emotion.
It was a lot of anger
after the video, I think. Just because... Sorry, I know your point is Sam. Like, again, for me, I would have Bradley start the final three.
Yeah.
And if Alexander-Arnold didn't play another minute, it is what it is, because he's not part of the future. What he's done has been amazing for the football club, but ultimately, from next year, he will be playing for Real Madrid. So that's where I'm coming at it from. Grateful for what he's done for Liverpool Football Club, but from now on, if he didn't play another minute for Liverpool, I'm not going to lose any sleep.
I'd agree. I'd say Kenny Dalglish, there was a famous quote from Dalglish about we should only be, paraphrasing here, we should only be bothered about the players who want to play for Liverpool, and I'd agree. I'd keep him out of the squad. One, to avoid the whole situation with potential booing, because even though it's a game we want to win, we do want to keep that party atmosphere going. I suppose for me the bigger issue would be Palace. What happens when, like, he's lifting the trophy? Or that's I don't really want to have to think about it, to be honest.
I wouldn't boo.
I personally wouldn't be booing him. I'd just be
him.
I wouldn't be clapping him either. I'd just be saying, like, you know, thanks for what you've done. If you don't want to be here, then I don't want to care about you at the moment, frankly. But I'd be playing Bradley all three. I think it's so important, and I think it's important as well, because the only reason I think there's any doubt over Bradley is because of his injury record, and that's why it makes it kind of difficult this summer, because it's quite clear from what Slots has said as well, is that he rates Bradley, and the club wants him to be the next number one right back, but he's still young, and there is that. If we're sat here in a year's time and he's had another year of playing 1 in 3 because of injuries, then it's a different conversation. Then we can be saying, well, we need to go out and buy a proper right back. But this year it makes it difficult in the market, because you're almost thinking, well, you don't want to buy a really good right back and then deny Bradley that pathway. But at the same time, we don't want to be challenging on him 4 fronts and have Joe Gomez playing right back if he stays.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It'd be interesting what the manager does. He's the only player we know he's going to play because the manager said it. Back 4-wise, then I'm guessing there's a chance here, Chris, that he just brings them all back. Because you know, so he brings Ibu back in, he brings Robbo back in, he lets Virgil go again. And then you mentioned before, he completely changed the midfield. Does he bring them all back in again? It'd be interesting, because does he want to give them all 2-3 weeks? I don't know. If anyone's carrying a little niggle, don't play them. I understand that. And we know Konate had a bit of a knee issue. So maybe he just says, go against Kwanzaa. But the option there is to go, he could bring back in theory, Robertson, Konate, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, McAllister. He could bring Luis Diaz back in if he wanted to, either up front or on the wing as well. Do you think that's what he's going to edge towards, picking more of his best 11 again one more time?
Yeah, I genuinely would be amazed if Van Dijk didn't play all of the last 3, because to play every single minute in the Premier League season I don't think people appreciate how big that is.
He would be the first Liverpool player to play 2 full like minutes of campaigns winning the title since Phil Neal.
And I know, and what an honour that would be. And I know we're a couple of years on from the injury. I get that, but it would show that he's beyond it now for me. And I would absolutely play Van Dijk final 3. I think in my head, I would go strong Arsenal and Palace, do whatever he wants at Brighton.
Yeah.
That's the way I'm approaching the last 3, because I just think it's really important after such a brilliant league campaign really to hammer home that fact that Liverpool have been the best team in the Premier League this year. Regardless of what anybody wants to think about the quality of the league elsewhere, Liverpool have been the best team in the division, best team in England, and that is a fact. So for me, I can see Kelleher maybe playing against Brighton, for example, but for me it would be Alisson, Bradley, Konate, Van Dijk, Robertson.
Yeah. And then would you bring all 3 midfielders back in?
That's a bit of a different one. Mainly because of, I don't know how many cocktails Mac has been having on an all-inclusive and everything. Also, Gravenberg's been out in Italy this week.
He's the one, I think, if anyone might need a rest, it might be him.
Yeah,
you could go to Endo again.
Again, Endo didn't play badly at all. So I would be okay with Endo. I can see Szoboszlai and McAllister coming back in, obviously fitness dependent. Maybe Jones over McAllister is the only one I'd potentially think. I think Szoboszlai comes back in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see a Jones, Szoboszlai, Endo midfield. I'd say possibly McAllister, but I'd say that's probably the 3 I'm thinking most likely.
I think Szoboszlai's the one who needs to come back in just because of his running power against a physical midfield like Arsenal. And Arsenal will have a spell in the game as well where they have the ball. And Szoboszlai, as much as I do rate Jones at times, he didn't show it. He was probably the most disappointing of the players who came in last week. You could argue he had the toughest job, but I was expecting more, so I think Szoboszlai comes back in for this one.
It depends how much he wants to win. We don't know now where people are fitness on. Salah will just play because he just will.
Well, you need, what was he, 2 goals and 2 assists off the 30-20?
I think it's 2 and, is it 3 and 2? It might be, I can't remember. It might be right, 2 and 2,
yeah.
It's whether he does what. My guess is Luis Diaz comes back and he didn't get a minute at Chelsea. It feels like he will play. It's just whether he plays up front, Sam, or on the left hand side. Whether the manager goes Gakpo left, Diaz up front, or does he go Diaz back on the left, and in which case he's picking Jota and Darwin. And it feels at this moment in time Darwin's time's up. So again, it might be another one like kind of what's the point? And it just isn't working for Jota at this moment in time. So again, do you want to give Jota time fired, get Jota minutes, get him back into form? Or do you want to go, I'm going to play Gakpo, I'm going to play Luis Diaz up front and try and actually win the game?
Yeah, it's
what I think is my best front 3.
It's interesting because, say, at right back, you're kind of saying, well, we're thinking about next season. Well, up front, it's very difficult because hopefully we're not going to be playing Diaz up front next season. So, but then also you're thinking, well, we're not going to be playing Nunez up front next season. We're probably not going to be playing Jota up front next season. So it's a bit of a toss-up in the air, really, of which you go for, because I don't think any of the options that we do go for, any of the combinations, will particularly be playing together next season. So I don't think it matters too much. I would, just because of the way Arsenal play, I would probably start Jota up front again, even though he's not been in good form. Jota's got a good record against Arsenal too. I think Gakpo looked the best he's looked for a while against Tottenham and Chelsea, because he did take a long time to come back. So maybe Diaz gets an extended rest, but Diaz has also been in good form, so it doesn't really affect the team too much.
Yeah, I think it'd be Diaz +1.
Yeah.
My guess would be probably Jota. I wouldn't be surprised if Diaz and Gakpo just share duties on that left-hand side for the rest of the season. Right then, let's have a little look around the Premier League then before we move on and get your guys' score predictions. Interesting, like I say, the league table, just to clarify, the only thing that's really up for debate now is this top 5 positions. Liverpool and Arsenal almost certainly, well, Liverpool are, I can tell you that. Arsenal, Liverpool, Arsenal are going to be in the Champions League because too many things have to go wrong for that one. It's basically out of everyone, I'd say, from Aston Villa in 7th up to Man City in 3rd, although City have got the Southampton game this weekend. The big game at the weekend, I suppose, in terms of this one, then, because we touched on it before, is Newcastle v Chelsea. There's a massive opportunity there for somebody to take a massive leap forward to Champions League football. In terms of form-wise, Chelsea are in good nick. They've won the last 3, obviously won in Europe as well. Newcastle a little bit more up and down. That game last week, they would be really disappointed not to have won. In the end, they were half lucky to get a draw. Talk about four VAR and penalty decisions and a dodgy handball. Well, not a dodgy handball, a bad handball by the Brighton player to get one. Yeah, it feels like that's a massive opportunity for one of those to really cement themselves. I was like, we're in it, and all you guys are chasing that last remaining space.
I would expect the winner in that game to finish in the top 5. I think it is that crucial. Even when you look going forward, I mean, Chelsea's final 3 are Newcastle away, a very much rotated Manchester United at home, and then Forest at the City ground to finish off. And what a game that could be. I'm edging towards Newcastle purely because of home advantage. I think Chelsea were decent last week. I think they're getting better at the back a little bit at least. And again, when people talk about the Thursday situation, it's been the case all season. They've only been playing Sunday games because the club are in the Conference League. It will be a very different lineup.
You gave a 16-year-old lad his debut in the semi-final of the European competition.
So, it'll be very different. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be a really, really good game of football. And as I say, I think the winner will do very well to not finish in the top 5.
Yeah, so City we mentioned before play Southampton. You'd expect City
I think the winner probably finishes 4th from that one.
There's there's a very good chance because we presume City are going to beat Southampton. Never always presume, but that's a pretty safe bet. You'd think a game that City and good nick and have to win. Forest are in terrible form recently again. They're again really, really disappointing. It's 1 win in the last 5 Premier League games now. To be fair, a draw against Palace isn't the worst because some teams are struggling, but they play Leicester at home, so that is the must win of must wins. It's a bit of a local rivalry there, and Leicester again with a bit of freedom and not much to play for might want to go and upset the apple cart. But if Forest want that top 5, they have to beat Leicester. They're going to have to be almost perfect. They've got Leicester and West Ham, 2 games that you'd want before that big showdown potentially against Chelsea. But for a team that have done so well, it feels like the wheels are falling off. They have to beat Leicester.
Well, earlier in the season, you would have said it's a banker, but Leicester have scored a home goal now.
We're flying at the corner with gas.
Vardy's 1 off 200.
So they've got a bit of motivation there, Leicester, despite already going down. I would expect Forest to win with the home advantage, like Newcastle. I think Newcastle will win, and it'll be a brilliant game of football for anyone who can watch it.
Lunchtime Sundays are mad on, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic.
Trying to fit all the games on TV.
Well, when they were TNT game, so they have to move it from the lunchtime Saturday to Sunday because of Chelsea.
But Forest, I think, will finish possibly below Villa. It hopefully will come down to that final day of Chelsea Forest because, we'll all be watching Liverpool lift the league title, but for neutrals that would be a fantastic kind of way to finish, especially if Newcastle were to beat Chelsea this weekend. That would probably mean there is still something riding on Forest v Chelsea on the last day.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, guys, we're going to be asking for score predictions in a moment for the game, so get your score predictions in the chat. The last game I do want to speak about, you mentioned Villa, it's kind of last chance saloon, Chris, and last chance saloon away at Bournemouth is not easy. Like, there's a chance at this moment in time Bournemouth might have their eyes on even. They're only 7 points behind Villa. I wonder if they've got dreams of catching Aston Villa, but again, Villa, they got the win last weekend, got themselves a little bit back on track. They've been actually 4 wins from 5. They've been doing everything they can just to hang on the coattails. Obviously they had the disappointments in the FA Cup, disappointments in the Champions League. They can go full focus on this one, but of all those, Bournemouth away is not a bad little lapse whatsoever. A Bournemouth team who again looked really good last weekend.
And I know you say about the top 5, but Bournemouth, Fulham, Brentford, Brighton, there's a real battle for a conference league spot, because I think I might be getting this right. So if Palace win the FA Cup, they get in the Europa League, but if City win the FA Cup, the Europa League place goes down in the Premier League. And then I think if Chelsea win the Conference League,
they go into the Europa League.
Yeah, go into the Europa League. But then
the Champions League.
Say they finish in the Champions League, then another place comes in. So there's real possibility that down to 9th could quite possibly get European football. So for Bournemouth, this is a massive game for them as well, really. I know Villa's last 2, so again, they'll be playing a Tottenham team who will have their eyes on one thing and one thing only, and then United, who could either have a massive hangover or be really quite down. So, it is a big game for both teams, and I can see it being a bit end-to-end, because we're at the point of the season now where if you haven't got the desired result by about 20 minutes to go, you've got to think about gung-ho. you really have got to think about going for it.
Draws are no good for Aston Villa now, are they?
No. There's a few teams now that draws aren't good enough for. And so I know you say the result at Palace for Forest, but is that a good result really right now? So yeah, I think it could be quite open the rest of the season just because there's a lot of teams that need to just win games now.
Absolutely right. Then let's get back to Liverpool. Go get your score prediction. Eddie in the chat, by the way, says he's looking forward to the Odegaard of Honour, which I thought fantastic.
He's got his camera.
Fantastic. I hope he has. Yeah, bring your camera, Martin. You can take a picture of the champions as they walk out onto the pitch, my friend. Yeah, Footy Bite says 9th. By the way, there's a possibility that 17th get European football.
Yes.
When what United? Yeah, there's a very good chance one of Spurs or United finish 17th. By the way, which is absolutely bananas. Right then, score predictions. Given what we said before, I'll go first. I think it's going to be a draw. I think like 2-2. Both teams kind of arse, but kind of not arsed, and it'll be a fun, decent game. But no, again, without the edge for both teams, that kind of takes away from it. I hope Liverpool win, but I'm going to predict a draw. Sam,
my head says 1-1. My heart's saying 2-1.
I'm in.
Yeah, I think it'd be a game where I don't really know if we can predict an awful lot because I think it could be genuinely anything. But yeah, I'll join in on 2-1. I'd like to say 3-1 just because, like, maybe a late breakaway goal or something like that.
I thought the Chelsea game could have been a mad one, like 3-3, 4-4.
I
think one of these last games of the season will be, so maybe it'll be this weekend.
Yeah, I was going to say it could have been if Darwin Núñez thought the goal was the corner flag, and vice versa. JD says I'm going for a classic 3-1 to the champions, and KJSJ says he's going 3-2, so he's expecting a bit of a mad one. Absolutely. What I will say, Liverpool will score a goal from a set piece. You can bank on that one. I'm going to say now we scored one against them at their place. Their defender on set play since they lost Gabriel in particular has been really poor. So I'm going to have a little bit of a tip on Virgil van Dijk to get himself another goal. He's in good form when it comes to that very recently. Rowan's going for 2-0 to Arsenal. Boo you, Rowan. And Footy Bite is going for 4-0. Diaz gets 2, Salah scores a pen and Virgil scores a header. We're on the same wavelength, me and Footy Bite. Right then, guys, thanks very much for tuning in to the Uncensored Match Build Up show. Thanks to Chris and to Sam. Do come and join us for the watch along at the weekend. Me and Errol in the studio from like an hour and 20 minutes before kick-off, right the way through to like an hour or so after the final whistle. Do come and check that out. Do go to the Red Weekend and get your tickets. And finally, go over to redmenplus.com and get extra content for free if you sign up this month as a Redmen Plus subscriber, a monthly captain subscriber, and use the promo code CHAMPIONS when you do it. You'll get it free for a month. So you get all of our league winning stuff, any stuff we get from in and around the parade, backstage at the Red Weekend, loads of Istanbul stuff that's in production right now that we're going to get to as well later on in the month, and of course just go and bask in Liverpool being champions. Anyone cost you a penny. Go and check all it out, and I'll catch you all next time. See you in a bit, everyone.